Good evening. Whatever the day held, it is behind you now. Let your shoulders drop just a little. Let the weight of your phone, your to-do list, your unread messages, let all of it rest somewhere else for a while. You are lying down. That is enough. Tonight, we are going to think slowly about something that matters very much, but in a way that is calm and unhurried. We are not going to make any decisions tonight. We are not going to write anything down. You do not need to remember every word. Just let the ideas drift through you, like water finding its own level. We are going to talk about freedom, the financial kind, the kind that does not arrive loudly all at once, the kind that builds quietly over years, the kind that one day, softly, you simply have. There is no rush to understand it all tonight. The ideas will still be true in the morning. And for now, the most important thing you can do is breathe slowly and listen. Let your eyes close if they want to. We will begin. There is an idea at the center of this whole conversation, and it is a simple one. One day, your money could work so that you do not have to. That is the whole thing, really. Everything else is just an explanation of that one sentence. Your money, accumulated slowly over time, could grow large enough that it generates enough to cover what you spend. And when that happens, when those two numbers meet, you are free. Not free in a dramatic sense. Not free in a way that means you will lounge forever on a beach. Free in the quieter sense. Free in the sense that you go to work because you want to, not because you must. Free in the sense that you could say no to a job, or a city, or a situation, and the world would not collapse around you. That kind of freedom is available to ordinary people. Not just to people who earned vast salaries, or inherited wealth, or got lucky. It is available to people who understood a few simple things and applied them steadily for long enough. Tonight, we are going to move through those things one by one, unhurried, like turning a beautiful object slowly in the light, looking at it from each gentle angle. You do not need a pen. You do not need to calculate anything. Just listen and let the shape of the idea settle in you. Imagine two rivers. One river is what flows in your income, your earnings, the money that arrives in your life in exchange for your work, your time, your skill. The other river is what flows out, your spending, your rent, your food, your subscriptions, the coffee, the clothes, the 10 small things you bought without quite deciding to. Now imagine those two rivers side by side. For a lot of people, they are almost exactly the same size. Money arrives and money leaves. The gap between them is thin. Sometimes it disappears entirely. Sometimes the outgoing river is actually a little wider than the one coming in. That thin gap, that is the whole game. Everything in personal finance, every principle, every idea, every concept we might discuss in 100 different episodes, it all comes back to that gap. The gap between what you earn and what you spend. Because that gap is the only place where wealth can be built. There is no other place. There is no shortcut around it. Every time the gap widens, a little more water accumulates in a third place, a quiet pool off to the side, filling slowly. That pool is your savings. That pool is your future. And the gap, small or large, determines how quickly the pool fills. Not your salary, not your job title, not how well you did at school, or which city you live in, or what your family had. Just the gap. Spend a moment with that image. The two rivers, the gap between them, the pool that fills. You do not need to make the gap bigger tonight. Tonight, just notice that it exists. The fact that you are thinking about it means something. There is a number that matters more than your salary. It is the fraction of what you earn that you keep. Not the total you earn, the fraction you keep. Two people can earn the same income and have completely different financial lives based on this one thing alone. Someone earning a modest amount, keeping 40 cents of every dollar, is building wealth faster than someone earning twice as much, but spending it all. This sounds simple, and it is, but our world tends to obscure it. Our world talks constantly about earning more. Raise your income, get the promotion, negotiate harder, find the side hustle, earn more, and everything will be easier. And earning more is a real thing. It helps. There is nothing wrong with wanting to earn more. But here is what nobody says at the same time. If your spending rises in lockstep with your income, nothing changes. The gap stays the same. The pool fills at the same slow rate. You have more flowing through your hands, but the same small amount stays. There is even a word for this: lifestyle inflation. natural human tendency to spend a little more when you have a little more. A nicer apartment when the raise comes. A better car when the job improves. More meals out, more subscriptions, more small luxuries that accumulate into a larger monthly number. None of these things are wrong in themselves. But when every income increase is met with an equivalent spending increase, the gap never grows. And a gap that never grows means a pool that fills at the same pace it always did. So the question to hold gently is not just, how do I earn more? But how do I let the gap widen? Sometimes that means earning more and not spending the difference. Sometimes it means spending a little less. Often it is both, slowly together, not all at once. Your saving rate, that fraction, is the real engine. A high saving rate on a modest income builds wealth. A low saving rate on a high income can leave someone surprisingly fragile, surprised to find that after 20 years of good earnings, very little has accumulated. This is not a judgment. This is just the arithmetic. The gap is the gap, whatever size it is. But knowing that, you can begin to watch it differently. Let us stay with this idea a little longer, because it surprises people. You might imagine that financial independence is something that only very high earners can reach. A doctor, perhaps, or a lawyer, or someone who built a company. And it is true that a large income makes many things easier. But there are doctors who retire with very little. There are lawyers who reach their 50s having spent nearly everything they made. There are executives who earned extraordinary sums and yet found, when they looked closely, that they needed to keep working indefinitely. And on the other side, there are teachers, librarians, artists, and civil servants who built quietly toward genuine financial independence, not by earning enormous sums, but by keeping a large portion of what they earned for a long time. The mechanism is the same for everyone. The pool fills when you add more than you remove, and the pool grows even faster when the money inside it earns something too. That last part, when the money inside it earns something, is worth pausing on. Imagine your pool begins to earn a little on its own, not because you did anything clever, just because money, sitting in the right place over time, tends to grow. It is the nature of functioning economies. Capital participates in growth. When your pool is small, the earnings are small. A small tree in its first year grows slowly, but a tree in its 20th year is another thing entirely. The same growth rate, the same percentage, applied to a much larger pool, produces a much larger number. This is why patience is not just a virtue in this conversation. Patience is the mechanism. The pool does not need to be rushed. It needs time. And here is the thing about a high saving rate. A high saving rate doesn't just fill the pool faster. It also means you need a smaller pool to be free. Think of it this way. If you spend very little, you need very little to live. And so the pool that would cover your life is smaller, and therefore closer, and therefore reachable sooner. A high saving rate works from both ends at once. It fills the pool faster, and it lowers the waterline you need to reach. This is the deep, quiet logic of it, and it is available to anyone who can hold it. There is a moment, not a day exactly, but a general season of your life, when the pool and your spending arrive at a particular relationship. The moment when the growth your pool produces in a year roughly equals what you spend in that year. When that happens, the pool becomes self-sustaining. It can, in principle, support you indefinitely. Your work becomes optional. Your income from employment becomes something you choose, not something you require. This is the crossover. The moment when two lines, what you spend and what your savings generate, finally meet. Before that moment, you are building, pouring water in, watching the pool rise. After that moment, you are free. Not free from wanting things, or from finding meaning in work, or from caring about the world, but free from the obligation to exchange your time for money in order to survive. This is what financial independence means when you strip it down to its simplest form. Your money covers your life. Your time becomes yours. It is worth sitting with how radical that is. Most of us grow up assuming that work is permanent. That retirement is something that happens at a fixed age, assigned to you by a system, funded by a pension or a government, or some combination of distant factors outside your control. But financial independence is not about age. It is about the relationship between your pool and your spending. You can reach it early if your saving rate is high enough and your spending is modest enough. You can reach it later. You can choose to keep working regardless, simply knowing that you could stop. the knowing changes something. Even if you never stop working, knowing that you could, knowing the pool is large enough, that knowledge has a texture, a quietness, a weight lifted. Some people pursue financial independence not because they hate their work, but because they want the freedom to do their best work without fear. Because they want to take a risk, try something new, walk away from a bad situation without the paralysis of financial need. Freedom is not only useful for people who want to stop working, it is useful for everyone. Here is the part that requires patience. And patience in the dark, at the end of a long day, is something you already have. The pool takes time, not forever, but time. And here is a gentle truth about time and money. Time is the one resource in this whole equation that you cannot substitute with anything else. You cannot buy more of it. You cannot hurry the years. But if you begin earlier, or even if you begin now, the time you have remaining is enough. Think of a seed planted in the ground. In the first year, nothing visible happens. In the second year, a small shoot. In the fifth year, something that begins to look like a plant. In the 20th year, shade. Your pool is like this. The early years are the quiet years, not dramatic, not exciting to look at, just accumulating slowly, changing the future in ways that are invisible in the present. This is why people who understood the idea early feel a kind of quiet gladness, not because they are richer than others, but because time did its work, unhurried, and they simply let it. And for anyone who feels they started late, the second best time to plant the seed is now. Not perfectly, not with every condition optimized, just planted in the ground and left to its nature. The years ahead will do what years do. There is no benefit to guilt about the past. The pool will fill from today, not from a year ago or a decade ago, from today. You cannot invest yesterday's years, but you can give the ones remaining the best conditions you know how to create. That is all. That is genuinely enough. Let us come back to spending, because it is the most immediate lever you hold. Earning more takes time. It requires negotiation, skill, luck, patience. You cannot always control it directly. But spending is something that happens one decision at a time. Not always consciously, not always easily, but spending is, in many small ways, responsive to attention. This is not a lecture about frugality. Frugality for its own sake is not the point. Depriving yourself of joy does not build wealth. It just makes the journey miserable, and misery is not a strategy. The point is something different. The point is alignment. Knowing what you are spending and knowing whether that spending reflects what actually matters to you. That is the thing. Not cutting arbitrarily. Not punishing yourself for the coffee or the dinner out, but spending consciously on the things that genuinely add to your life and spending less on the things that slipped in quietly by habit or marketing or friction and do not add very much at all. Most people, when they look carefully at a few months of spending, find things they had forgotten. Subscriptions that lapsed from use. Habits that grew without decision. A recurring cost for something that was once meaningful and is now just a number leaving every month. Attention is not deprivation. Attention is just noticing. When you notice, you have a choice. And when you have a choice, you can sometimes make a different one that widens the gap just a little without any sense of loss. The money you redirect to your pool is not money you are losing. It is money you are keeping. It is time you are buying. It is future freedom quietly accumulating. Every amount matters, not because small amounts become large overnight, but because the habit of directing money toward your pool, the gentle, consistent habit, is the thing that sustains across years. Not the amount, the habit. Let us come to what this is really about. Financial independence is not about being rich in the way the word is usually used. It is not about excess. It is not about accumulating more than you could ever spend, or having more than others, or displaying anything. It is about freedom. Freedom is an interesting thing. It is difficult to describe to someone who has never felt it financially. But people who have reached a place of genuine financial security, who have a pool large enough to support them, a gap wide enough to keep adding, describe it in similar ways. They describe a quietness, a reduction in a certain low hum of anxiety that they had not even noticed until it softened. Decisions become different. Not all decisions, not the big ones of meaning or relationship or purpose, but the small financial decisions, the ones made from fear, from scarcity, from the need to earn enough no matter what, those begin to feel different. You can afford to say no to the thing that pays well, but costs something you are not willing to give. You can afford to try the thing that might fail. You can afford to be patient in a negotiation because you are not desperate. You can afford to take a month off to heal, to travel, to simply be still. This is not a fantasy. This is a real place. Real people live there, and they arrived not by luck or genius, but by understanding the gap and the pool and the time required, and by tending to all three for long enough. You might be closer than you think. The distance between where you are and financial independence is probably shorter than it feels in the abstract. It does not require perfection. It does not require wealth as a starting point. It requires direction and patience and time. Those things you have. There is a word that sits at the heart of this whole conversation, and it is a small word. Enough. Knowing what enough means for you, specifically in your life, is one of the most clarifying and peaceful things a person can do with their financial thinking. Because without a clear sense of enough, freedom is always just slightly out of reach. The pool is always a little smaller than what would feel safe. The number that would satisfy is always just a little larger than the current number. The horizon keeps moving. But when you know what enough looks like, what a life that is genuinely sufficient, genuinely comfortable, genuinely good, actually costs, then you have a target. Not an arbitrary target set by someone else's assumptions about what a good life should look like. A real one anchored in what you actually value. And that target is almost always more reachable than the vague, unlimited target of simply more. More is a horizon that recedes. Enough is a place you can arrive. Contentment is not the same as giving up. Contentment is not a smaller ambition. It is actually a more sophisticated relationship with desire. Knowing that you have what matters. Knowing that the additions beyond a certain point are diminishing. Knowing that the pool you are building does not need to be infinite, just sufficient. Sufficient to cover your life. Sufficient to give you choice. Sufficient to let you breathe. When you find your enough, when you trace the outline of a life that would genuinely satisfy, and calculate what it would cost to sustain, the path to financial independence becomes not a vague aspiration, but something that has an actual shape. A shape you can move toward, slowly without hurry. You have traveled a long way through these ideas tonight. The gap, the pool, the saving rate, the slow crossing, freedom, enough. None of it needs to be resolved tonight. These are not problems to be solved. They are ideas to hold gently, the way you might hold a smooth stone in your hand, not gripping, just noticing the weight of it. The most important thing you can take from this evening is not a number or a plan or a specific step. The most important thing is the shape of the idea. The understanding that financial independence is a real destination, reachable by ordinary people through ordinary means, over ordinary time. Your decisions tomorrow do not need to be perfect. They just need to point slightly in the right direction. A slightly wider gap, a slightly fuller pool, one more month of patience, of letting time do what only time can do. That is all it has ever taken. And tonight, you do not need to do anything. You have already done something by spending this time letting these ideas settle in you. Understanding is the seed. The rest follows. Let your breathing slow. Let the ideas drift. There is time. There has always been time. You are already moving towards something good. Even now, even in the dark. Rest well